So good. Okay, well, welcome everybody. My name is Kevin Ross. I'm the founding chairman of First Washington, and I do all sorts of things for First. And this is FTC Tuesday with Kevin. And the kind of the format of this is going to be, we have a topic, and I've brought in somebody who knows way more than I do for that topic. And tonight's topic is going to be about Git and GitHub. They are actually different. Mike will explain all of that. So Mike Magruder is a former Facebook and former Microsoft engineer. We've known each other, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so. And Mike is also a mentor on my FTC teams. So he's new to being a mentor this year, but Git is, well, he's a pro. I am not. I am going to learn right alongside you guys. So that's sort of the, I don't know, Mike, what do you think, half hour?
Yeah, a half hour, whatever you want to do. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
There's more than I could talk about that will keep everyone's attention. So we'll just go until you all tell me to stop.
Yeah, all right, sounds good. And then I'd like to chat with you folks about what's going on on your FTC teams, find out if I'm here to answer any questions that you've got, and whatever, mentor talk, student talk, engineering, don't care, judging. So with that, I am going to let Mike take over for a little while, and he's going to explain to us what the heck this Git thing is and how it works.
Yeah, sure thing. So let me go ahead and share my screen here just so that I'm ready to go. Let's try this one. All right. Can you guys see my web browser and the weird guy in yellow here? All right, great. So Kevin asked me to talk to you guys about GitHub, and I think it's really useful. And so what I'm going to try to do is explain how you can use Git and GitHub and what they are, what the difference is, things like that, effectively in FTC. And so like, why do you even care about this, right? What this is all about is your code, primarily. You'll see it can be about other things here in a minute too, but it's going to be primarily about your code. And you're going to work hard on the code for your robot. And if you're doing on-bot Java, for instance, that code's just going to live in your robot controller. And if you're using Android Studio to build from there, it might live on the laptop that you have Android Studio on. And that's fine, but there's some problems with that. What if you break that robot and you lose your code? What if the student who's got the laptop with all the code in it, gets sick and can't show up for 3 weeks? That's really disappointing. Suddenly, are you starting fresh? Are you trying to get this code from your friend? It's really, really painful. GitHub is a place to put your code. If you've ever used any sort of online drive, like OneDrive from Microsoft or Google Drive, or a tool like Dropbox or something like that, those are places where you can put any file in the cloud, right? And then you can access them from any computer that you could log into. And in some sense, GitHub is really quite a lot like that. But instead of being focused on any kind of file, it's really focused on code. And what you can do is you can make what's called a repository. It's like a place to put files. You can think of it as sort of a top-level directory almost. And you can make a repository and you can put your code there, and now it's online, and you can share that code. You can share it with the public if you want to, and a lot of people make completely public repositories. But what I'm going to show you to do today is to start with a private repository that you can share with your friends explicitly. You'll all have access to the code. You'll all be able to see it. And then what I'll talk to you about is how to update the code you put there over time. That's called committing an update. And if you are diligent about committing and writing a couple things down as you commit, you'll find that you have a history of all the changes to your code. So in the beginning, when you just had driving working, and maybe you were driving backwards, but that's because that's the default example or something, that's fine. And then once you fix the drive forward, you'll have that, and you'll have all these different versions on and on and on. You can go back. If somebody breaks something, you can ask, what's the difference? What changed? And you get a very visual way to see that. So this is really going to be about, where do you put your code? how to make versions of it, how to share it with your friends as collaborators. And then we'll go to some more advanced topics from there. But let's start with that. So the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go to github.com and you'll sign up for an account. Now, I've already signed up for an account and I'm logged in, so you can see my profile here. To sign up for an account at GitHub, you need to be 13 years or older, which I don't think will probably be too much of a problem. If you're on the edge of that, you can talk with your parents and make sure they're cool with you signing up. But GitHub's rules, I believe, are 13 years and older. Once you sign up, you'll have a little profile here and it'll be kind of empty, but there's this place where you can have what they call repositories. And repositories are basically all these different places for some code. And so I'm going to show an example of a repository here that's got a bunch of code and a bunch of other things in it too. If I click on this, my repository is named Mastermind. In the APCS class that I work with, the teacher has a project called Mastermind, and this is a repository all about that. And so it can have a bunch of different code in here. And in fact, if we go down into, well, if we just scroll right down here, you can see all my C files that are related to this code. And if you were to actually click on one like this one, well, here's the file. It's kind of nicely formatted. It's got a little bit of coloring to it. It's got some line numbers and stuff. And you can scroll down, you can see all the code. Now, I'm not going to show you this code. It doesn't matter. It's just an example. Every repository has a README file. And the README file can have anything you want in it, but generally you describe your repository. So here I'm trying to describe what it's about. I've got a lot of writing. I've got links to other documents. I've got tables with results. I've got animated GIFs that are showing some of the output of the program. You can have tons and tons of things in your repositories. There's another repository. Let me grab the link to it here. Whoops. That might resonate with you a little bit more. Here's a repository that our FRC team made. And so underneath here, they'll have their code. And they've got some pictures of their robot and some little description of some different parts of the robot. And this is all on GitHub. You can put it up there. You can make it as interesting or as plain as you want it to be. But it's really nice to be able to share pictures of your things, to talk about parts you feel are kind of innovative about it, whether it's just for you or for your friends that are working on it or for other teams at your school or for the public, whoever you want to share it with, you have control over that. But ultimately, the repository is just a place to put some code. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my GitHub. And if I move my, there we go, kind of move my zoomy thing out of the way here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make myself a new repository. And you can go to your repositories page. It'll start off as empty, but you can say new. And so you can give it a name. So I'm just going to give it a name like FTC demo, 1 or something like that. Actually, I'll make it 2 because I used 1 at some point earlier. And I'll give a little description. I'm going to say, this is our, our 4089 team repo for 2021 or something like that. And I'm going to start, and what I would encourage you all to do is to start by marking it as private. You can always change it later. You can go either way later, but I think it's good for students to think about their privacy a little bit and their, how they're viewed online. And so just start with private. And I like to say add a README file. And that's it. That's all you have to do. You can say create a repository. And now we've got a relatively empty repo here. There we go. We have a relatively empty repo here. It's just got this readme.md file in it. And it doesn't really have much interesting in here. If I click on the readme file, you can kind of see it here. You can even edit it here if you want to, but we'll come back to that. And so, okay, that's fun, but what's the point of that? Who cares about that? So let's talk about your onBot Java for a second. When you code with the onBot Java, got a screenshot here because I don't have a robot to connect to right here. So I'm going to show a couple screenshots. I'm really sorry. But here's my web browser from when I was doing this. And I just had, a couple little various robot files on here with different sample code or whatever. It's kind of random, whatever it is. This first one is the one you can see on the screen is, I think, mostly just the standard sort of linear op sample code. But when you've got your code on here, if you right click on the the directory that it's all in, where it says org, first, inspires, so on. You'll get this little menu where you can add new files or rename things, but you can also click download right here. And when you click download, what it'll do is it'll download all of your files into a zip file, into a compressed file, right? And in fact, when I did that, I got this nice teamcode.zip file. It gets downloaded to your download directory. And on my Mac here, if I double click on it, and this will work on your PC, this is all, I'm doing this on a Mac. It's all the same on a PC. It's just like maybe the file browser's a little different, but everything I'm going to show you is completely the same. But anyway, if I click on my zip file and unzip it, I get my team code directory, and I've got my first Java code here, And so I was able to download it from my robot. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to upload it to GitHub so that my friends can see it too, and so that I have a version of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of this preview. I'm going to come over here to my repo, and right up the top here, it says add files. And I'm going to say I want to upload a new file. And I can now drag files right on here. And I'm just going to select all 4 of my files here, and I'm going to drag them in. And it's going to go ahead and upload them. And now I get to say what I've done here. This is, this is basically the first basic version for our bot, something like that. And you put a short description in. You can put something really long in here. I'm not going to put anything in there right now. And I'll talk about commit messages more in a little bit here. But now I'm just going to say commit changes. And when I do that, now here's my repo. I've got my Java files right here. If I click on first bot Java, there's my first little program. That's the first thing to run to drive my robot. If I go back and, look through any of these things, this M2 Java, it's a different little sample program here. It can really be anything you want. You can read the code. If you're not sure what code is being used, you can have a look here and see what it is and check it out. Okay, so fine, that's kind of interesting. What if you want to get it back out, right? Let's say that, you're going to start another robot and you want to use some of this code in it, like maybe I want to use first bot Java. Well, again, in your interface on the onBot Java right here, it's got this little button here with the little up arrow, and that's the upload button. And if you click that, you can select a Java file to upload to your robot. And so all you have to do then is get your file on disk. So what you can do is you can go to a file like this firstbot.java file, and you can do 2 things. You can go raw, click that raw button there. Sorry, I might have gone too fast. Up here, there's a little button that says raw. And so if I click raw, I just get just the file with nothing pretty around it, right? This is just the code. So I can do things. I can do 2 things. I can right click on this, and I can save it. And I can save it as whatever I want, .java, wherever I want to. And then I can upload it to my first bot. The other thing is, if I already have a file that I was working on in the onBot Java, I can just come here and I can select everything. And I can just hit copy. And then I can go over to my onBot Java editor, and I can just paste it all right back in there. And now I've got the version off of GitHub. So it's really pretty simple to use in a really basic way. You make a repository. It's a place for your code. You download the files off of your onBot Java, and then you turn right back around and you upload them to GitHub. Having done that, now you can see, and everybody can see them or everyone you share with, and we'll get to that in a minute, but you'll be able to see it on GitHub. And if you want to get it off there, you can either download one file at a time. You can copy and paste the code out of a file. You can also even just come up here on code and say download zip, and this will download you a zip file of your entire repository, and you can then upload that to your bot. So it's pretty easy to do. And I like to start by showing Git to people this way, because GitHub's a great website. It's super reliable. It is used by so many developers all over the world. And so it's a great place to put your code. It's very simple to use through the web interface. And if you can get your head around uploading and downloading the files to the web interface, then you're doing pretty good here. So what I'd like to show you real quick, and I'm going to use kind of a weird editor for this, which you can kind of ignore. There we go. I'm just going to make some changes to my bot code here. I'm going to pretend that I was doing this on the onbot Java and that I've made some changes and I'm going to download them, except like I said, I don't have a robot to connect to right here, right now. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I really wanted to have different names for my two motors, right? Make that say motor there. And then, you know, I really felt like I was going backwards here when I was with my Y stick. So I'm going to take the negative out of there and just leave it so that my Y stick will go a different direction now. And I'm just going to save that and get out of it. And so let's say I've been playing with my robot. I'm happy with those changes. I want to go ahead and it's the end of the day. And what I would encourage you, honestly, end of every day of programming, upload your changes to Git. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit upload changes again. This is exactly what I did the first time. I'm going to take all of my files. I don't remember which ones I changed. Doesn't matter. Take all of them. I'm going to take all of them and I'm going to drag them back in there. Let it upload them all again. I'm going to say, you know, fixed motor names. Also made it drive the right direction with the y-axis. I'll go ahead and commit that. And so now our repo looks exactly the same. But if I look at first spot Java, notice it says that it's got the fixed motor names right next to it. And I just committed it now instead of 5 minutes ago. And if I go look at the code, indeed, I can see right here that my motor names are different. Okay. If I do this every time, I get a history. Notice up at the top here, it says 3 commits. Again, a commit is every time you upload and make a change and write about it and say, I want to commit this. So if I do this, I can see the history of the code for our robot. And I can see that, hey, I fixed the motor names here. This was the first basic version. That was the initial commit. Obviously, this could get quite long. And if I take, for instance, this other robotics repo, let me show you as an example real quick. 264 commits. Some of them quite recently, and you can see the entire history of them working on the robot, when they made the changes, what they did, often multiple commits a day. This is a great example of how to use GitHub. Going back here, we know the changes I just made, but what if I wasn't sure? What if I made some changes and you wanted to know, hey, what does Mike mean by fixing the motors? Well, if you look at this list and come over here and click on this little weird 8-digit letter and number thing, it actually shows you the difference. I told it to re-upload all 4 files, right? It only cares about the changes. That's all Git wants to store. And so it shows me right here, the lines in red got deleted, the lines in red got added. And it's even intelligent and it says, hey, you know what? These lines were all the same except these highlighted parts. Left drive to left motor, right drive to right motor. You can see the same thing down here. These lines were really the same except this one little minus sign. So you can see what I did. And if that's a mistake, you can say, you know what? I got to be honest with you. I really liked my code when it was back here. And so if you hover over this, it should give me a hint here. There we go. This little thing with the brackets to the right, if you hover over, it says browse the repository at this point in history. If I click this, it takes me back to the top of the repository. But if you look closely between them, you'll see the link at the top is really, really different. And now, if I look at my first spot.java, well, guess what? It's back to drive. And it's back to going the other way on the y-axis. And if this is the code you want to use in your robot on bot Java to go back and try it, like say, hey, I thought this was working yesterday. Let me try it. Well, heck, you can just come right here and go back to this raw view, select everything and hit copy, go over to your onbot Java window, paste it in, compile and run and drive it and see what it does. If it works, you can say, all right, let's go back then, you know, let's just go right back and you can get back to the most current right up here by saying going back to main, or heck, you can just even click right up here, the name of your repo. And this will take that weird number off the end of it. And then you can go back into what you had that might be a little bit screwed up. Select everything, copy it, paste it in Unpot Java, build it, drive, see the difference. And that's really one of the nice things about GitHub is seeing those changes. Now, the only way you're going to see changes if you're good about committing often. I always tell programmers, you know, when you're at your computer and you're kind of working on your stuff, if you get something even working a little bit, commit it. Because nothing beats when you, I'll tell you in a little bit if you're doing like Android Studio or other things, or this desktop client I'm about to show you, nothing beats being able to say, hey, you know, we have just gotten our heads completely turned around. It's so distracting. People have been talking about hardware on the robot. People have been running to and fro. I thought I knew what I was doing. What have I changed today? You don't even have to upload it to see once you're all set up. But you can say, what have I changed today? You know what? I didn't mean to change that line. Put that one line back for me, and it'll do it. And it's super convenient and really helps you keep your head straight. So
there's a ubiquitous statement that every programmer who's been working for more than a week has made, which is, it worked 3 days ago. What happened? And
yep.
This happens. I helped write Microsoft Windows back in the early days, and that was you heard that line every single day. Somebody would say, well, it was working last week. What changed, right?
Yep.
And so this is the mechanism by which you find out what is it that changed. Mm-hmm. It can save you weeks, literally, because if you hadn't, I've also done software projects without source code control, and sometimes it can take weeks to figure out where the bug is, even though it was working last week. So this is good stuff. Yeah.
And so I want to show you two more things before then I show you another really interesting thing, but just to sort of wrap up the introduction here. Two things. When we look back at the Stealth Robotics 2020 repo, it's got these cool pictures in it. How? It's actually really easy. They just made a directory in here somewhere. It occurs to me, I don't know where. They've just got the files uploaded as, they just got the JPEGs uploaded. And I don't have a good example here. So let me go back to one of my repos where I know where the example is. Sorry about that. So like this mastermind repo, I've got my animated GIF here. And so all I had to do was just upload. And I think I made a docs directory. Yeah, images. You can just upload JPEGs or PNGs or whatever. And you just drag them in and put image files in there, no problem. If you click on an image file, it'll actually give you an example. This is a different image, but it'll actually show you the whole image right there. This README file is made with what's called Markdown. And that's just a way to format your text files that lots of things know how to format really nicely. And if I hit this little edit this file guy right here, you can see this is what it looks like. One little pound sign in front of it, that makes a heading. You can make links different ways, bulleted lists, things like this. And I'm not going to go into it right now. You can find tons on the web about this. But if you basically reference an image like that, well, that's how you get your image in line. If we actually, just occurred to me, I can just come over here and edit this file. Yeah, there you go. They're just referencing their picture. Oh, they didn't even put their pictures in GitHub. They put it on Imager. Put your pictures in GitHub. That way, if you change it, you'll be able to see what the old picture was, right? Put that stuff in GitHub. But you can edit your README file and get something really nice looking for your team. And you can just upload the images to GitHub. It's super simple to do. Like I said, I'm not going to go in on how to do Markdown. If you just Google how to do Markdown on GitHub, you will find out just how easy it is really, really fast. There's only like 4 things you need to remember. It's not bad. So the second thing is, how do you share with your friends? I made a private repo. If you were to take this this URL here and type it in, GitHub's just going to tell you, you know what, you're not allowed to look at that. So what you have to do as the person who made it is come up here under settings and then manage access here on the left. And it wants my password again, which I will let LastPass put in for me. And so here it says, I haven't invited any collaborators yet. And so I want to invite a collaborator. I want to invite Kevin. You have a GitHub account, right, Kevin? Let's see. Do you know which one of these is you? So instead, what I'll do is I'll invite my friend. There we go, Michael.
Sorry, my mic wasn't on. It was
no problem. I'm going to add my friend Mike Miyoshi to this. He's got an invite. It just went in his email. He can click the link and he will then have access as a collaborator to the entire repo. I believe if you know somebody's email address, you can put it in there as well. And do you have a GitHub account, Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin W. Ross.
Kevin W. Ross.
Yeah.
Is that you right there?
Sure.
Sure. Add to this repository. So you should get an email and be invited.
Nice.
You can do this with each of your friends, with your teacher. You know, teams don't tend to be that big. It's not too hard to go in here and add people as a collaborator. They'll get to see the repo. They can upload and download. They can make commits. They can get different versions. They'll have the full access to your entire repo just like you want them to have. You can always go back and you can Google how to do it, but in the settings, you can make your repo public if you just want to let anybody see it. By making people collaborators, you allow them to upload to your repository, but just making it public, other people can see it, but they can't upload. And so to make it so they can upload to the repository, you still need to make them collaborators. But again, it's just under settings, manage access, invite collaborators. What we do in the programming classes, we have the students each make a repo for all their projects, you know, for their intro class, for instance. And then we have them go invite the teacher and any mentors as collaborators. So you'll end up with 3 or 4 people in a repository. It makes it really easy for the students to upload their work and for the mentors and the teachers to look at it and comment on it and see what's going on. So those are the basics. And if you take nothing away from this today, just remember, hey, you can do everything with a web browser. You don't have to install anything on your computer. It is super duper simple. But it's a little bit fiddly, isn't it? Like uploading and downloading from GitHub with the drag and drop. It's not bad, but it's not great. It can be better. The best is when your code editor integrates directly with GitHub. And if you use VS Code or you use Android Studio or any other IDE in the world, Eclipse, IntelliJ, Visual Studio, Xcode, on and on and on. Any code editor that's remotely reasonable, even remotely reasonable in 2021, it integrates directly with GitHub. And so if you're using Android Studio, I'm not going to show you how to do this today, but it is very easy to, once you've made your repository on GitHub, to go and say to Android Studio, hey, I want to work on the code there. And then it will pull it down to your local computer and let you work on it locally. And it'll always show you the differences with a remote repository. And you're just a couple clicks from making a new commit that goes into the remote repository and updates your repository in GitHub for all your teammates to see. If you're not doing that, if you're still doing on bot Java, what you can do is if you go to github.com, I have it written down. Hold on a second. It is, I thought I had it written down. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's desktop.github.com. They have a client for Mac and for Windows. And I've already installed it on mine. And so if I launch it, GitHub for Desktop, it's a nice little app that runs on your computer. Relatively small, doesn't take a lot of space, it's pretty fast. And what I can do here is when I launch GitHub Desktop, the first time there won't be anything in here. But what I can say is I want to clone a repository. And when there's a repository of stuff up on GitHub and you want to start using it locally, you clone it. And so what I'm going to do is it'll show you all the repositories you have access to. And I have access to a ton of repositories from other things, but you can filter it, which is good. So if I filter this down, here's my FTC demo 2. And I'm going to put that on my machine at this path. And I'm going to hit clone. And when it does that, well now, hey, here's that history of the files I had, right? There's where I put in the first version. Here's where I made this change just to firstbot.java. And what I can do is now, if I use my Finder and I just go to my directory dev FTC demo 2, it made the directory. Here's my files. They're already on my local computer. Fantastic. That's a lot easier than cutting and pasting or saving as or something like that. Now let's say that I use an editor, whether it's Android Studio or whether I download stuff from my onbot Java again. But I make more changes here. Like, let's say I really messed this up. Like, I completely break it. I delete lines, do some weird indenting. I'm just, somebody's really fooling around and they really just make an absolute mess out of this. Right? Oops, wrong button. There we go. Well, now, when I come back here, it should show, oh, I edited those. I made that mess in the wrong directory. Oops. Okay, so I copied my mess to the right place. And so now you can see, as soon as I come back to the app, it updates and it says, hey, you have one changed file today. And it's called firstbot.java. And here's all the things. You've deleted these 2 lines. You played with some indenting here. You screwed up everything here. So if you're working on your code on your onbot Java, and you're like, man, this is just a mess. I know this worked better when we got here today. Just re-download the file and copy it over where you've made the local copy of the repository on your local disk. And then come back to the GitHub for Desktop app. And it will show you a display just like this. And you can say, okay, I don't like some of these changes. Like, why on earth did we delete these right here? And you know what? I can put it back. I can right click and say, discard the removed line. I'm going to say okay to that. And there, it put the lines back in the file. And if I liked this one, but I didn't like that one, I can make changes there as well. I don't think you can actually, you can't actually edit here, but it shows you what your differences are and allows you to undo some of your changes. So you can say, oh, the reason it doesn't compile is because we removed those 2 imports. So let me put those 2 imports back. Now it's here. Now you can re-upload it to your onbot Java with the little upload icon, and boom, you're running this version of the code. You can download stuff from your onbot Java. Again, over here, you can review the changes. And if you're happy with them, you can make a commit right here. And so I'm going to say even more changes because I don't know what I really did. And we were just fooling around, right? And now I can go ahead and make a commit. Cool. So the commit's done. So if I go back to the web page, we're going to see that, right? Let's see. Nope, we don't see that. Why? Okay. GitHub is a place to put your files. It's like a literal physical place where you put them, and we uploaded them there before. I used this great little GitHub for Desktop app to clone it onto my local machine. What that did was it made a local Git repository in that directory on my machine. I can make commits. I have history there now. See, here's my even more changes. But that's different than what's on GitHub. To get it up to GitHub, I need to push. And that's why it says right here, push origin. Or over here, whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. Over here in changes, it says push origin. After you make a local commit, Nothing's changed on GitHub yet, but it has changed locally. You have a version locally. You can still see what your differences are. You can keep working. You don't even need to have the internet on to do this. Using the desktop app with your local clone of the repository, you can work with it locally as much as you want to. When you do have internet access again, and when you're ready to put those changes up for everyone else to see, all you got to do is hit push origin. And that goes ahead and uploads it to GitHub. And so now when we come up here, we can see that I have my new commit now, even more changes. And if I go ahead and look at my code, yep, there's those 5s I put in. Now you can actually see the change. This is actually really, really nice. And there's really lots of advanced topics around this. By cloning locally and working this way and making local commits and then putting them back up to the central repository on GitHub, you can technically have multiple people work on the code at the same time and push it up there. And you can, if they actually change the same thing, you can resolve conflicts and things. I'm not going to go into that now. It's way more advanced, but there's a whole massive topic there. The main thing for you is I really like working locally, either with GitHub for desktop or with Android Studio or VS Code, whatever editor you and your team likes to use. And if you're using an editor, like if you're using Android Studio or VS Code, and you edit in there and you say build and deploy to robot and it's working, those editors are going to show you a display just like we had here, where it was showing you what's changed live. And you can know what you changed. If you're asking yourself, this seemed like it was great at the beginning, well, how come it doesn't work now? You can look at it and see. And when you're done, you can make your commit right in Android Studio or VS Code. And you can say commit just like I did down here. And there'll be a nice push button where you can push stuff up to GitHub. It is super seamless, super, super easy to do. And so whether you're doing on-bot Java and you use the local GitHub for desktop, or you just only use the web interface, or if you're using Android Studio, it all boils down to the same thing. Change your code, get someplace that you're kind of happy with at a minimum at the end of the day, make a commit, get that commit up to GitHub. Verify that your commit made it to GitHub, just like I did here by navigating to the file and looking for a change that's easy to remember and make sure that it really got there. When you start the next day and you're to the point where you're like, what the heck's going on here? You'll always be able to see what the difference was. And that is amazingly powerful. It's an amazing time saver. And so if you can get in the habit, whatever workflow works for you, whether it's on bot or Android Studio or whatever, get in the habit, you'll be a really, really happy team for it. And you'll never lose your code. You'll always know where it is. So that
Mike,
is, go ahead.
Yeah, this is, I think this is awesome. This is great because, for example, yesterday, the robot that I wanted, one of our students wanted to use the navigation code off of the last year's robot, which was sitting right here. And I had no way to give it to him because the code is all on that controller. And so this is the solution to that. And I think this is going to be super duper useful. Hey, who's got questions, guys?
Yes, that was a lot. Yeah,
that was a lot.
I have a question. So what would be the benefits for using GitHub versus Sourcetree?
Versus Sourcetree? I'm not familiar with Sourcetree. What is that? Can you describe it real quick?
Oh, well, it's another way to share files and clone repositories.
Got it. Oh, yes. Is that sourcetreeapp.com?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And you know what? When I go to sourcetreeapp.com, the big description right in the middle of the page says a free Git client for Windows and Mac.
Yeah. So
you know what?
Why would I use like raw GitHub versus Sourcetree?
Yeah. And so if you want to use Sourcetree, party on. Everything I talked about, the whole point of it, the having the code, sharing it, the versions, the committing, it's all exactly the same. You can use GitHub Desktop client directly from the GitHub guys,
Yep.
or you can use the Sourcetree desktop client. Sourcetree should integrate with GitHub, and you should be able to host your code on GitHub. I don't know if Sourcetree has their own place to host it. There's other places like GitLab is kind of a competitor with GitHub in terms of online hosting. If the Sourcetree guys let you host at sourcetree.com, it's all the same thing. You have a repository in the web that you can work with through a web interface probably, and you can work with it locally, either through the Sourcetree app, the GitHub Desktop, or ideally directly through your IDE, like Android Studio or VS Code.
Thank you.
So Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like we have, there's multiple computers going on here. There's my robot controller, and there's a place called GitHub, which is out there on the cloud. And I can download the code to my local computer, and then it uses we'll call it a protocol, or it uses a service called Git to store my code up on GitHub. And so really GitHub is a like service that Microsoft, I believe, owns it now.
Yes.
And it's up there on the cloud. And
Yeah.
we talked about using Git. And
Yes.
so we can either do it on the web, or we can download a client onto our computer. And
Yes.
clients on the computer could be VS Code, they could be Sourcetree, they could be the desktop for GitHub. There's a bunch of stuff that talks Git,
Yes,
right?
that's exactly
So-
right. Yeah.
Got it.
In fact, Git, just Git, Git. Git was originally a command line program. It was developed by the man who makes Linux in order to control all the source code for Linux. And Git just got adopted by a ton of developers all over the world. You can do everything the command line just with Git. And when we talk Git, we tend to talk about a local repository on our machine. GitHub is something other people built on top of Git to make it a bit easier and to make a cloud-based repository for it. GitLab guys did the same thing. These Sourcetree guys may have done something similar. Git got integrated into all of our IDEs. Git underlies it all. And yes, there's a protocol. There's a way that things are stored, these differences, those funny numbers up here, like right there where it says commits, well, it was a short number, but now it's a really long number. These hash codes, that's all Git underneath. But GitHub is this pretty interface right here, which works really well. Tons of people use. They used to be their own company, but Microsoft bought them recently. GitLab, same kind of thing. Sourcetree looks like to be a similar sort of thing. Who hosts it for you in the cloud? Hey, pick the one you like best. I like GitHub. You don't have to like GitHub. Try one of the other guys. No problem. All the concepts are the same. The underlying stuff is the same. And when you get to the point where you're using a real IDE to edit your code, the integration is so seamless, no matter where you store it, you are just going to be like, you're going to be so happy. It's not even funny.
Who else got a question? Phil.
Thanks. Mike, this has been great. I want to ask, is the Android Studio the same as the GitHub for desktop? I mean, is that the same kind of deal where you're editing the code in that, and then Android Studio will let you push straight to GitHub from there? Our kids are using Android Studio.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. So yeah, Android Studio, it's an integrated development environment in IDE. So you've got your Java compiler, you've got your nice editor and making the code all pretty, and it all works on your local desktop. Android Studio integrates with Git. And so you can go in Android Studio and say, hey, I want to make my project a local Git repository. And it may in fact already be a local Git repository. You might have to look and see. And then you can say, hey, I want to put this local Git repository, pardon me, on GitHub. And that's integrated into Android Studio. And you'll be able to make your commits right in Android Studio. They'll have a little UI for it, and a little UI where you get a button that says, push it up there, or pull changes down, one or the other. And yeah, it's all seamless. It's all built in. And the really nice thing is when you're working in Android Studio and you edit some lines, it actually puts little markers to the left side of the line that shows you whether it's new or change or deletion from what your last commit was. So even when you're just reading your code and working on your code normally, you have some sense of what parts around you have been changed and what parts have not been changed. It's really, really nice.
So it'd be superfluous to have the GitHub for desktop if you're using Android Studio, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
You just need Android Studio interacting directly with GitHub.
Yes, yes. And I don't have it in front of me. I need to get myself, I need to borrow a controller so I can fool around with this myself. But if the people are really interested, I can get that all set up myself and walk you through exactly how to do it. But there should be some pretty good guides for doing it out there. It shouldn't be too hard to do it all.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other
Any
questions?
other questions?
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Hello?
Yes.
Hi. I'm from down in the Vancouver area.
Mhm.
Nice.
And I heard that the person that usually runs our tournament, our competitions, has moved out of state. Do we know what's going to happen? Because the teams feel that they would have to maybe have a different strategy if they were not going to be able to have an in-person competition versus a at-home competition.
Brenda, that's a great question.
I didn't say who I was.
But you're showing up right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
That's
thought it was
okay.
my very distinctive Muppet voice.
Oh, well, it's a lovely Muppet voice as far as
Yeah,
Muppet
you have a
voices
great
go.
voice.
I believe that Adrian has found somebody to take Christian's place. And I have a meeting about that tomorrow at 6.
Okay.
But my understanding is that the leagues will still happen in the Vancouver area.
Okay.
And so it should run it'll just have a new Christian.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
I have I have a similar question in the Tacoma region. Do we know who's running our leagues at this time? Is it like 2557?
I think so, but I need
Okay.
to, I'll be honest with you. I don't know off the top of my head, and Adrian had sent me an email, and here we go. Brenda. Oh, yeah, I think it's still 2557. The email address is not decryptable, but I think it's
Probably Rich Williams, I think.
Rich Williams. That's who I think it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And I will be doing the one on the east side, and somebody at Gonzaga Prep is doing it, and I'll be honest, I shouldn't actually let me get through the meeting tomorrow. Adrian, the plan is for her to contact everybody, let you know who your league coordinator is. She's going to assign everybody to leagues next week. People are still registering. If you haven't registered yet, you need to check your email and find the registration link. She sent it out again today, actually, I think. That seems right. How do I get like 200 emails in one day? It's all good. It's all good. There they are. Yeah, she sent out the link for you guys to register so that we can get you into a league. Cool. Who else got questions about GitHub and or obviously anything else?
So this is Shannon. I'm a coach, and I've had the kids using GitHub for quite a number of years. But we're struggling with on-bot Java and trying to figure out how can multiple kids be programming multiple robots and saving their code. So I'm looking for like best practices of the folder name at the top of the on-bot Java, which I noticed is different. You guys have more of the old Android Studio style there. So the ... team code stuff.
Mhm.
And so I'm just looking, do you have best practices if the kids are using OnBot Java and they're multiple programmers, multiple robots, but we're trying to all save it into a single repository, and maybe that's the wrong way to go? I don't know.
Actually, you know, I think one repository for your entire school is just fine.
Yeah.
What you want to do is you just want to make sure everybody has a subdirectory for their team or their bot. That way you can keep all the files separate and you don't have to worry about naming conflicts or anything. Everybody can name their code, you know, mybot.java. But as long as there is an actual team name there, then you can put them in different directories in GitHub and you don't have to worry about names. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, and so can you see my okay. So this is our robot bot from last year, and just for convenience, we stuck all of the code in this directory, and it's got all sorts of test code and whatever. The reality is you can actually, in OnBot Java, you can right click on the root of this thing, and you can do a new folder, and we will call it Kevin's code. And I can head down in here and insert a new file. In your out mode, we'll call it Kevin's code. And I'm pretty sure this works, but I thought before I send you off, I should try it because I have not tried it. But we will get this real good. And then you can actually tell it where to store it. In fact, it won't even let you hit save until you tell it that it's going to go into Kevin's code. Okay. And I obviously have done something else wrong. It's mad at me because of something.
Well, and Kevin, I can tell you from my experience with the kids last year, if they each have their own folder at the top level, each folder is a different zip. Like you can't zip the whole thing.
You can't zip the whole
You
thing.
can only
Right.
zip from a folder down. So I'm actually thinking for this year, I should have a top folder, and then the kids have their breakouts down below that with their different robots down below, so that when we extract to the download zip, we're only having to do it once at the top.
Got it.
Yeah, it would be nice to download one thing at the top for sure.
Exactly.
Let's see if Kevin can get this in there. Oh, it's saying okay now. Give it a shot.
Yeah, it turns out it did not like the directory having a space in it. It allowed me to do it, but it wouldn't let me save it to a directory with a space in it.
Doesn't surprise
No
me
worries.
in the slightest.
Yeah. No problem. So there we go. So so there's my new class. And so the question,
Yeah, there's nothing to right click on, is there? Yeah, it's got to be each separate directory. That's annoying.
It is partially annoying. However, on the other hand, if they are truly each working in their own directory and their own classes, maybe that isn't such a bad problem. I don't know.
It actually, it has to do with if you download the directory so that you can push it into the repo, it is easier if they're at the same level. So that's why I was kind of hoping you guys knew better than I did. But I think what we're doing is probably working out okay. Now that I'm seeing what you're doing, because it's you want to be able to shove it into the commit at a level where it goes to the same place every time.
Yeah.
Oh, so here we go. I was able to multiple select by using the control key. So there's two directories. Will let me download them? It will.
Let's see what you get.
And we'll see what we get. I got myself a.
Oh, weird.
Well, he got it.
That isn't what I got. So let me try this. Yeah, okay. So it's the thing that you right clicked is what it downloads.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Not as
It's not as friendly as it appears like it should be.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. The other option you could do is you could just have one directory and you could give them a prefix for all of their Java file names. And so if everybody's got like a different 4-digit team number, you can make them put their team number first or something like that, or a T and then the team number if it won't let you do a number first. I don't think you can name a Java file with a number.
No, the Java file actually has to be the class name. That's enforced, and it has to start with an uppercase character.
Yeah.
So we would do, you can do initials. You could do, or you go Kevin, Telly 1, and we'll put it in that directory, and I should be able to get linear out mode, so that should work.
And you could do, you know, T4089 underscore, you know, main drive, T4089 underscore shooter settings, T4089 underscore stopwatch.
Yeah.
And then that'll be your class name in there. But then you could also have, you know, T8628 underscore stopwatch, and that's their separate stopwatch. And they can all be at the same level. They'll all be at the same level in GitHub too. And yeah, you'd like to use a directory for that, but we're very limited by what the on-bot Java interface lets us do.
Yeah. And actually, if the prefix, especially if you take care with your prefix, it will actually organize the block of files for each grouping. So I'm wondering if I can just come to this guy and download. Can I just download, let's go with Jim's tests.
Yeah, you can
Here's
download
Jim's
a single
test
file
notes.
by right-clicking on it. Yeah.
And so will it download 3 files? No, it downloaded just 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do just one. Basically, it's whatever actual thing, whether it's the top one that'll give you a zip or individual files.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a really good question. And
Great question. Wonderful. Yes.
I like on-bot Java for many, many things, and sometimes it really pisses me off.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Kevin. That's how I feel about it. But
Yeah.
there's no way we can keep up with the Android Studio installs and that hot mess every year. So
Yeah, you know, and Android Studio is great when it works, and then at some point in your life, you're going to get a Gradle build error.
Yeah.
And I've been a software engineer since 1986. I have no idea what to do when a Gradle build error happens. It's as cryptic as possible. Mike did Java professionally, and I don't know, Gradle's kind of a weird thing.
I worked on the Facebook Android app for a few years, and as you can imagine, it's gigantic. We did not use Android Studio. We actually used our own customly modified version of IntelliJ with our own build system, not Gradle. I've used Android Studio for a bunch of little projects, doing smaller apps. And like Kevin says, it's great when it works, but every now and then you get an update. And you're like, oh yeah, I should update. I should keep things up to date like a good citizen. And it just ruins you. And you almost feel like you need to start fresh. And I'm not really sure why that is. I'll be very honest, but it is very frustrating when it happens. Yeah.
I think, especially for students, I think on-bot Java is, in my opinion, is the right thing to do unless you've got some rather advanced programmers on your team. I mean, Android Studio is great. When it works well, but there's just less muss and fuss with on-bot Java.
Yeah. What we need to do is figure out how we can work with the people that make on-bot Java to improve it.
Yeah.
You know, we should be able to have some subfolders. We should let you download just like she wants to. That doesn't seem
honestly, I would love it if they would let you hook a Git client to it and then just commit it right from there, because the problem is trying to, you know, kind of clean up after the kids are finishing for the day. I'm like, okay, let's save a copy, and there's this rigmarole to trying to get it done. Whereas there are Git clients, like for a Windows machine, where you can right click on a file. The Tortoise Git does this. You right click on the file and you say you want to commit the file right there. And
I could see how that would be messy though. And the reason is that the little computer there is actually the server. There's no internet access on it. So in order to actually do the upload, it would have to reconnect and switch from being a server into a client. So instead of being the access provider, it's now needs to be a client. So, and then I think that could get messy, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you all know about using a second net card?
No.
Well, here, I'll this. Oh, I need to do this. This little dongle here is actually a Wi-Fi card, USB Wi-Fi card. You can plug this into a laptop and it gives you a second network. And let me swap to a new share of this screen. And so you're now seeing my desktop, right? Okay, so when I go down here to my network, I am connected to two networks now. Whoops. And the two networks are my robot, and I'm also connected to my local, this is my house's internet. And so I can actually be on the internet talking to you guys, or be on the internet on the same computer looking up things, you know, on an FTC documentation, and programming my computer at the same time. So these are a super useful little gadget that I think a lot of teams haven't heard about. And so, for example, here's on.bot Java. I can program away on it, and I can also go to Amazon.com and look up USB Wi-Fi. And these things are really dirt cheap. They're like $9. It's a very, very nice $9 to spend. I've used TP-Link, I've used EdMax, I've used Netgear. They start to get a little bit more expensive in some places, but these TP-Link, the TP-Link work fine. For $14, you get one that can also do N-band or 5G, 5 gigahertz, not 5G. Yeah, they're like $9-15, something like that. We use them all the time, and that way the kids can be programming away and then download and then immediately upload with GitHub, or you can go find the FTC Java docs, and you get the idea. Super helpful. So there they've got all their class information. Here they got the programming, copy, paste, life's good. Was that useful?
You have no idea. That's a winner right there.
That's a good one.
That's
that's why I'm here.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think those are about to go out of stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to make a run on them right now.
Yeah. So we have, I have 6 laptops that I take to school, and they all have them, and it saves a lot of frustration and a lot of time trying to look stuff up on a phone, because the FTC docs are really hard to read on a phone.
Yeah, we've been downloading the Java doc to the laptop so that they have a way to get at it, but that's kind of a pain every year too.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier. I mean, the internet's ubiquitous, so yeah. And so when you go to do this, on some laptops, if you've got 2 Wi-Fi cards, you'll get a little drop down box up here where it says Moss Creek. You actually get a little drop down box, and they'll be usually like Wi-Fi 1 and Wi-Fi 2. And so you connect one to your school's internet, the other one to the robot. So sometimes it appears slightly different than what I'm showing you here. So yeah, pretty straightforward to use. Cool. I believe here, in fact, I will even throw the link to You know, I'm going to say that we're actually using these ones. That seems right. So I'll throw a link to this in your in the email thing or in the chat. Where is it? There it is. If you're looking for one that somebody else has used, that's usually a good thing, everyone, and we'll drop that in the chat. Okay, so there it is. It's in the chat. Good $14. All right, who else has got questions? Karin, how are you doing? You're a happy, talkative young man. What?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
I'm doing pretty good. I think I just want the recording because this is kind of confusing, just in general.
Okay.
Like the whole GitHub thing, very confusing. So I may want the recording.
No problem. I will send it out because you're on my email list, as I recall.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that. Well, let's see. Brady's here. I don't see Colin, or other guy, but I'm sure somebody ought to be able to figure it out.
Can you also email me the video because I kind of missed the first half?
Sure, absolutely. Well,
Sweet.
that's why we recorded it. So yeah, very cool.
Thanks.
We'll do that. I won't upload it until about 8:30 tonight. But
sounds good.
All right, sounds
And
good.
if you guys go off and play with this, and if you're stuck in somewhere or confused or something, just let us know. I'm happy to come and help you directly through Zoom, or we can, if you've got some problems, we can clarify for everybody, whatever you'd like to do.
Very cool. So other things that are coming up, by the way, on, I think she announced it. If not, you'll be hearing it first on October 9th, Saturday, October 9th, from 10 to 1 or 2, something like that. There will be a set of experienced mentors, myself, Kevin Emery, Jim Wright, and anybody else that we can wrangle to kind of show up. And we will be here. I think there's a link being sent out. And if you guys have any, or if you're stuck on anything, you can come find some one-on-one help with your team. And I think that's on a Saturday from 10 to 1. And we've done these in the past. We used to do them in person. We will get back to that. We currently don't have a building anymore. First Washington doesn't. So we used to do this at First Washington, and we'd usually get like 6-8 teams would show up with their pile of parts and no clue what to do. And you can get ideas or feedback or suggestions or flat out help on how to achieve things, whether it's in CAD, whether it's in software, whether it's in hardware. So that is on the Saturday, October 9th. And we'll be announcing that on all of our channels. I think Adrian sent that out earlier today. Sound right? It's on. How are things up there?
Things are pretty good so far. Yeah.
What have you guys figured out so far?
Like just generally, or from
Yeah,
this?
what's the strategy? Are you guys going to be like robot based, for example? Are you going to try and go through the gap? Are you going to go over the bars? Any thoughts?
Oh yeah. To be honest, I'm not really sure yet. I think there was more discussion about going over the bars, because you know, I don't know, we found that it was much faster with our drive-based testing. We also gotta decide what wheels we want to use in design. I think there's going to be a design meeting pretty soon. Not sure when though. Yeah, we're all still deciding on what our design would be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're in the same boat as everybody else, or well, most everybody else. So our teams decided to try and go through the gap, you know, the 13 3/4 inch gap. And so Stealth Robotics is going to have a bunch of robots that are only 12 inches wide. But it's and Mechanism wheels. Because
Oh yeah.
yeah, and you know, well,
Oh wow.
why not? So
Yeah.
I can't remember the
like
last
it'll be
time I
difficult
built
to
a 12-inch
program.
wide robot. That's pretty narrow, but
Yeah. Same here. Well,
Yeah.
we only build them to like fit in the boxes for transportation to outreach events.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And one of the teams is planning 12-inch by 12-inch with Mechanism wheels on the four corners. So it'll just be 4 wheels. There are some videos online showing robots with Mechanism wheels driving over the bars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that I think if you can hit it very square or very as close to square as you can, I think you could probably make it over. I think if you got more than about 30 degrees off course, I think a Mechanism drive is going to have problems, lots of problems. So we'll see.
Yeah. Our team's thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
We're also like, I was thinking that if we just go with enough speed, then we could probably make it over. But
Ram
like with
and
any
pray?
wheels, yep, ram and pray. That's my strat.
Yeah.
But it's probably not good for the robot. So might not.
Well, I guess keep those nuts and bolts tight. I've got two teams. Yeah, I've got 2 teams. One of them is in my morning class, and the other one's in my after-school club. The after-school club is going with the Mechanism wheels. I'm not exactly sure what size they're probably going to be about 12 inches by maybe 18 inches long. They're thinking about a skinny long bot with a high lift on it. And then the class is looking at like a forklift drive. So they're looking at like 4-wheel drive with Omni on the back and Solid on the front and trying to drive it around like a forklift. So I guess I'll get to try both of them because we got that field set up and we'll have them both up here to play with. So.
Oh, forklift robot sounds awesome. I love that idea.
The only thing I'm worried about is trying to pick up ducks with a forklift. So we better have a good gripper.
Right.
So we
Is it like gonna be designed? Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Is it gonna be designed like an actual forklift with like the 2 pad thingies sticking out?
So
Like the 2 arms?
what they were talking about was having it so the arms start in an up position, and at the beginning of game they drop forward and do stuff. So I don't know how it sounds. Their design right now sounds a little sketch. They haven't actually started assembling parts yet, so we're going to have to talk about how that's going to go, and they'll figure things out as they finish it. But I'm betting there's probably going to have to be something that drops forward, because if they got either that or they're going to have the motors mounted farther back, leaving a gap, and just have like chains or something driving the wheels up in the front. That might give them the gap that they need to get over the top of a piece to pick it up that way.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I just really love the idea of a forklift.
So we got our field
driver in the field. That'd be awesome.
We set our field up yesterday for the first time. And we found that once you put everything in the warehouse, the big pile of crud that goes in the warehouse, it'd be pretty easy to accidentally pack that pretty tight, especially if a robot ran into it. And I'd highly recommend, if your team hasn't done it yet, take up all those scoring elements and squish them into a corner like you accidentally ran into it with your robot and plowed. And then you need to start realizing or understanding how you actually pick stuff up when you can't get your finger between. The problem is that, we all do the exact same thing. You say, well, how are you going to pick these up? Well, I'm going to reach out and grab it like this, right? Well, it turns out that if you're trying to get this block, you can't actually do that. And when you're mimicking your fingers, it's really easy to sort of like wiggle your finger down in there to grab it out. But you have to put splints on your fingers because they don't actually do this. Well, unless you come up with a really cool mechanism that I can't do, but usually the only thing that sort of does this is like surgical tubing, right?
So you just need a robot hand, right? You just get one of those 3D print robot hands and just put some rubber stickers on the end of it and go for it, right? Yeah, good luck.
You can wait on that. You can pull an all-nighter at the end for that.
Got a question. I haven't seen the parts yet. So are those metal weights in the heavy blocks, are those magnetic?
They are not magnets, but they are steel.
Steel. If they're steel, that's what I'm saying. If they're ferrite metals, then we can just pick them up with a magnet and then have a separator to pop the magnet up so that it drops the piece. You've ever seen those shop bolt pickers up? So you just grab a hold of it and you just pull the lever and it pulls the magnet away from the flat plate. Yep, that would be a good idea for picking up the heavies and the mediums.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Or maybe electromagnet if you want to get real crazy and burn some power.
Electromagnets, unfortunately, are not allowed.
Well, that's true. They're not. Yeah, we can't charge those energies. But yeah, a regular magnet you could.
Huh, interesting.
As I don't think regular magnets are banned, right?
No, they're not. I look forward to seeing your success at that. I honestly don't know whether it would work or not. It seems plausible because you could actually so like here's the block, right? Let me go to another camera. So here's the block. The 1/2-inch pins on the heavy ones are in 2 corners. Like this, and then if I was to roll this over, they're in the opposite 2 corners. So there's 2 here. Flip it over. There's 2 here, and so you could potentially come down with a magnet and go clunk and then lift the thing up. And then I'm guessing you could probably have a little mechanism that just push
that's one way. Yeah.
Yeah. Just push it away physically with a little pusher. That could be an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah.
You would have access to 10 plus 20. There would be 30 scoring elements you could potentially pick up that way.
And there are also the particular ones that you're going to want to play with to balance things out, because they got enough weight to throw the bins over to the side or to straighten out one that's already tilted. Yeah.
And the weight differential between the heavy ones and the light ones is actually the heavy ones, we'll call them hefty. I mean, they're not like super heavy, but when you compare the two in your hands, you kind of go, wow, that's a bigger difference than I was expecting, honestly. Cool. I believe they're like maybe 4 times heavier, 5 times heavier. I'm pulling that number out of my butt. I'm sure that somebody's already weighed them, but it just felt like it. But I like the magnet idea. I could go with that.
I'll give you a tip from one of the kids on our team, 7198. We don't have the field parts yet. So we had old blocks from a past season. So they figured out they could stick socket heads into the holes in the square and get the blocks to weigh exactly matching what they will be when they show up, and just tape over the socket pieces so they stay in there. Mm-hmm. They figured all that out, and they were able to test their grabber weighted. So
cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Did you order? I assume that you ordered a field already.
Oh yeah, it's ordered. It just takes a while.
So one of my boxes showed up on Friday, but the other
red is backlogged, back ordered. We're only going to get blue.
You're only going to get blue. We got red, and our blue. They shipped at the exact same time, and FedEx took one of them, came straight to us, and the other one is apparently going through Albuquerque or somewhere. It actually hasn't been scanned since Indiana. So,
ours is in North Dakota.
Yours is in North Dakota. Very nice. At least you know where yours is.
Yeah, I sent a little thing. I go, is this the first challenge in Freight Frenzy? Like, I didn't see it in the game manual.
Yeah, Freight Frenzy is getting your field out of FedEx ground.
Right. It's like the first challenge. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was in the appendix of the game manual, I think. We didn't get that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good luck with that. And yeah, mine is, in fact, here it is. My initially was supposed to arrive on Sunday, which they don't deliver on. And
yours says pending.
Well, one of them got delivered and the other one is now saying Sunday the 26th, which is 2 days ago. I don't know. They don't know where it is. Yeah, it's all good. It'll get figured out. Again, last time it was scanned was in Greenwood, Indiana, which is where Andy Mark is, right up the street. So it's all good. We shan't fret.
Yeah, mine's in North Dakota.
All right. Okay, well, I think then it's about 6:30, and it turns out we're having a CAD class tonight that's going to start at 6:30. So this is going to be the end of FTC Tuesdays. And so thank you all for coming.